Welcome to the Healing Manifest podcast, the one true place for you to learn to becoming your best self. Each week, we're going to have a new guest to help you learn new ways that you could become your best self in many different ways. If you enjoy the podcast and you enjoy the conversations that we have on here, it's a lot of work, a lot of production, and it helps a lot with everything that you do. So if you like, watch, or even share this video, or if you're online and you're just listening to it and you tell people about it, it helps us a lot with the algorithm boost so we can grow more, get better production, more sponsors, and help with new ways that we can get more people for you. That being said, we have a guest here today, amazing person. I have a great intro for her. She's actually a trainer with an organization called CanFit Pro. She does CPR training as well as AD training. She is a mother, and she also helps people who are mothers get back into their fitness journey. So please welcome my guest here today, Brittany Warner.
Hello.
How are you today? I know you've had a busy day today.
To say the least. Honestly, I used to live in Toronto, and I'll tell you, I don't miss it. And the new road closures and what have you, and all the great activity that goes on here.
Oh, you don't miss all the noise that happens in the background on a regular basis when you're trying to sleep?
No, initially I did. So when I first moved out of the downtown core, it was too quiet for me.
Yeah.
I was so used to being put to sleep by shouting, sirens. That was a soothing element for me for bedtime.
You get used to the noise. Oh my goodness. I'm not ready for that little missing of the noise.
But yeah, now I'm used to a little bit more, how should I say this? Tranquility, a little bit more calmness. But I am so excited to be here. This is my first podcast that I am featuring on. Usually I'm sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm hosting because I also have a podcast as well. And this is a little bit of a switch up today, but I'm really happy to be here, and thank you so much for reaching out.
Of course, you know what? It's interesting with the podcast that you have. That's a bit of how I found you as well, because I like to just have days where I go on Instagram and I just look for people that are local, and I saw it and I was like, oh, this is a cool setup that she has. This is a nice, the guest that you had as well. And I was like, okay, I like these conversations. This is cool. I got to get her on here. She's used to this. Boom. I got to message her here.
Thank you.
Cross my fingers. So for people who don't know you just yet, you can explain a bit more of your journey into fitness, your podcast. Just give us everything that we can have for you.
Absolutely. So I am what I would like to call a dabbler. So I've never been the type of person where I've found one thing that I really, really love and have stuck with that one thing. Mm-hmm. I'm more the type of person where I've found quite a few things that I'm really passionate about and put 110% towards. Mm-hmm. So a couple of those things are some of which you already named. I am a personal trainer. More specifically, my demographic are GTA women between the ages of 30 and 50 who are new to the workout space or reintroducing their body to the conventional way of working out. I am also a pro trainer. So what that means is that I teach others how to be personal trainers. And I also teach CPR. So that's a really important skill to have, and something that I've really come to value, especially since having my son, which leads me to my next point. I am a mom of a 6-month-old. He just turned 6 months yesterday. So thank you. So that has been really exciting, and I'm really thankful for all the support that I get, because I wouldn't be able to make all the things that I do happen. And I am also a podcast host.
Yes.
So my podcast is the Small Business Big Stories podcast, where I highlight GTA female entrepreneurs, their story, their purpose. And last but not least, I am an elementary school teacher. So right now I'm technically on mat leave, but when September hits, I will be heading back to a little bit more of a 9-to-5. Teachers are not really the standard 9-to-5 workers, but just for ease of explanation. For ease of explanation, it's a bit of more of a 9-to-5. So that's what I do. I've sort of shifted a lot of the work that I do. I'm still at times in the downtown core. but a lot of the stuff that I do now is a little bit more in the West End. So Mississauga, Brampton, Oakville. So yeah, that's kind of where life has directed me, and a lot of windows, doors have really opened up in that shift happening. So I've been really blessed, really lucky, and it's almost like a new fuel has ignited in me, where again, after having my son, it was like I can make anything happen. And again, for those of you out there who maybe don't have a lot of support and you're a parent on your own, hats off to you. I have more of a, how does the saying go? Where you're raised by a village, essentially. And so I have a ton of support allowing me to be here, there, and everywhere, bringing my son along for the ride as well, but allowing him to be cared for by family and friends while mom goes to work.
Yeah. And honestly, it really does take a village to raise a family, because people don't realize it is so much. Kids need so much support as it is. And
Absolutely.
you gotta do the hustle and bustle and everything, as you're saying. And with all the hustle bustle you do, you're saying you are a teacher. You also you teach personal trainers. You do fitness as well.
Yeah.
You did a lot of time to find these things and dabble into what you wanted to do. And it's something I'm finding, it's like you really just have to go for it and whatever you're trying to do. So with being the fitness side, finding the time to do that, like walk through that journey of becoming the personal trainer. Like first, I guess, getting into fitness.
Absolutely.
Getting yourself into that consistency, teaching people into it. Like, what was that like for you?
It was a pretty up and down journey, I would say. It started with my own personal health journey. I was in my early 20s, and I was like hard focused in on finishing school. I was in school for psychology, and I was also technically doing a double major in education. So I was getting my teacher's degree while I got my undergraduate degree at the same time.
Dang.
Yeah, so that was an interesting ride. Yeah. And one day I was heading up the stairs to catch my subway, and I was so out of breath. Now, I'm not, I'm quite a petite individual. Genetics, on my side there. And, all else things considered, I was in pretty good health. And the only thing that I realized was lacking was the fact that I wasn't as physically active. So I spent a lot of time focusing in on my studies, but not enough time balancing my life out. And in my case, balancing was getting myself moving a bit more. So it was that day that I realized, okay, I need to do something about this. I'm too young. I was in my early 20s, right? And for me, it wasn't acceptable to feel the way I was feeling at that age. And again, all else things considered, I was in good health. So I took it upon myself to get my own personal trainer. And to be honest with you, it wasn't a great introduction to training. I won't name the gym.
Yeah.
But the personal training service that I received was anything but personal. It was by an individual who seemed very distracted, very disengaged, and very disorganized. So I realized from there, but again, it was a learning experience. I never consider anything a regret. It was definitely a learning experience, because later on I would come to figure out that it was an instance that inspired me to what I did not want to be as a personal trainer. So I did that personal training stint for a little bit, and then I called it quits, and I leaned more into group fitness. So there was a gym that had opened up within walking distance from where I lived. And so I woke up at 6 a.m. At that point, I wasn't a morning person. But I saw this fantastic gym open up, and I said, let's give it a go. And I got into a really solid routine, and group fitness brought me a lot of vibrancy. It added fuel to my flame that I needed to kickstart my consistency in regards to physical health. And you really gained the support. So at that time, that's what I really needed. I then started to venture into my own professional sort of path into physical fitness. So that's when I took a group kettlebell instructor course. So I became certified in training and instructing kettlebell. From there, I had a friend open up a gym, and he soon became a mentor of mine. So he allowed me to run kettlebell group sessions out of his gym. And then I realized, okay, I love this, but I want to cater more to people's unique goals. Mm-hmm. And so quickly after realizing this, I got my personal training specialist certification through CanFit Pro. So I had my group certification. Now I had my personal training certification. After that point, I quickly started to gain clients, and this was more through word of mouth. This was family and friends. I hadn't quite gauged the social media spaces yet. So I was still going through my own personal journey. My friend and mentor was training me, so we were doing one-on-one training together. And then things sort of shifted for him. So that gym location had closed down. And so now I was sort of left to my own devices. And this was now the peak of COVID. Okay. So at this point, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to advertise my services. Everyone was virtual at this point. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to create videos, educational videos in regards to what I had learned from the courses that I had taken so far. And the videos that I recorded were literally in the front of my apartment in the driveway.
Finding whatever space you can.
Exactly.
Get it done.
Yeah. I was using like the post of the awning that was attached to the apartments to do banded work. I was just walking up and down, just doing exercises in the driveway past. Like neighbors were just kind of like, okay.
What is she doing?
Yeah, close neighbors. My landlord was like, all right, everything okay over there? But this is what felt good to me. Mm-hmm. This was the way that I felt as though I could share my knowledge and reach people, you know, with the circumstances that we were facing at that point where we couldn't be in person with anyone. From there, I started getting inquiries from social media. So people that I used to work with were seeing what I was doing on social media, and they started to inquire about my services. So I started doing Zoom group fitness sessions. I started doing one-on-one sessions. There's actually a client that I've had. She was my first client to sign on with me, and we still train to this day. And she's now become a really close friend of mine. So yeah, really, really humble beginnings. Once restrictions started to become a little bit more lenient, I would do meetups at parks and do group fitness sessions that way. And so fast forward to now, I have since received quite a few certifications, have upkept my kettlebell certification, Indian Mason Club, strength and speed. So that's more barbell training with your squats, your deadlifts, your bench. And I've gotten more into the space of prenatal and postpartum training because it became more relevant for me once I discovered I was pregnant and then after having my little one. So my demographic has always been females, but I've now somewhat shifted to women who are expecting or who have had children. So yeah, the education has now become a little bit more spanned out in that regard.
What's great is like, what you really did was, and what I usually say for people is, a lot of people think first and foremost, they can't start something because like, I don't have the space, this is not working out, but it's like, you got to realize how much you can utilize even a little bit of space that you can.
Oh, you get creative.
Got to get creative. And you did that. And what is so great is not only that, but it's for people who are also like, I can't work out. I can't afford a gym membership. It's okay. Well, here's little things that you can do. And you help people figure out how to work out with that as well. and you built your journey from there, figured out your core demographic.
Yep.
And then after you're like, you figured you're like, I relate to my core demographic, and you grew with that, which is so important. And one thing I think people forget with fitness is, like you said earlier, it's not about having to be the most jacked, biggest person. It's just being fit.
Yeah.
So even for yourself, you found yourself being like, okay, I'm getting exhausted just
walking up a flight of
going
stairs.
up the stairs.
Yeah.
For
For me, that was unacceptable.
Yeah. And like, for people who are like, even watch, they're like, okay, trying to figure out their journey. What, like, for you, it was going up the stairs, and you realize that from the clients that you have, even yourself, what have you found people are like, okay, this was me having to get to that point of, I gotta start working out, let me start making that switch over?
Yeah, really good question. So it's interesting because what I realized is that the energy and the story that you put out there is what you can get in return. And that's mostly what I've received in regards to what clients' wants and needs are. So for me, again, it was like energy level and building that up. And a lot of my clients are similar in that way. Because again, when I started my journey on social media, I was sharing my personal journey and my personal connection to the business that I was providing. And once that is out there, people relate. People connect to that journey. Even though we're all different and we all come from unique walks of life.
There's just that little something sometimes that's like, you could have a whole story that's A to Z.
Yep.
It just takes someone to be like, hey, from F to I.
Yeah,
Like,
I connect with you.
Yeah.
And that is what I got in my inbox were individuals women who just wanted the energy. You know, they wanted the energy to play with their kids. They wanted the energy to get out of bed and go about their day-to-day lives. And that's what I put out there, and that's what I received. And, you know, I've often gotten the question, like, did you ever encounter an individual where you felt as though, you know, you couldn't really help them, or, you know, they just didn't seem like the right fit to work with? There have been a few here and there, but honestly, when you get really specific on who your demographic is, for the most part, you will get what you put out there.
It's a bit easier for you as well to be like, okay, I can relate to you a lot better because you're my demographic. I'm creating my demographic in the way that suits for me as well.
And that feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if it doesn't feel good to you, it's not right.
Yeah.
It's not the right path.
It's like, what was I going to say here? With you as well, sorry.
That's okay.
You have a lot of experience with teaching as well.
Yes.
Like you said, you're a teacher, and you found the time to get into it from there. And even you said you have all this knowledge of teaching. You're like, sometimes you have to just say, hey, certain people I'm just not going to. And I could imagine with yourself and other people I hear about that have had stories of personal trainers that are like, they just couldn't connect. You sometimes either have to learn to mold your training to a certain person, or accept that there's certain people that you can train.
Yeah.
And like, hey, you did that, and like, congrats to you, honestly. Like,
Thank you.
journey.
It definitely was a journey, because initially when I'd had that happen to me, I turned it around and looked at myself in the mirror and thought, what am I doing wrong? Or what did I do wrong for that individual or for us to just not mesh well? I'm like, my hardest or my most tricky critic is myself, right? And I think a lot of people can say that.
Oh, yeah.
But what I realized is, yes, there's always some self-reflection that is required. You are catering, especially in personal training, you are catering your approach to someone's unique needs. But really, sometimes it's just not a good fit because your personalities just don't mesh, or what the person is looking for is not what you offer, and that's okay. Some people, I've had, again, few people that will come to me and be like, I want to look like this. And I was like, there are certain factors that are at play here. Genetics, the person not being you, right? Other life factors that are involved.
There's going to be certain things that are going to work for you.
Right. And so I've had to respond to these individuals being like, we can get on a similar path, but for you to look exactly like that person, it's not going to happen.
You have to accept you're not going to have this exact.
For sure. And yeah, a lot of people, they'll often refer to celebrities and the way that celebrities look and the type of training that these celebrities get, the type of nutritional regimen that they are put on. Oftentimes it's for the sake of a movie or a show, and it's not a sustainable regimen.
It's not. And also it's like they spend thousands on their eating regimen, training, everything.
Yes.
Like I seen something that LeBron spends, I think it was $100,000 a year. Or
only
more than
that?
I'm on the generous side.
Yes.
I think it was higher, but it was something. I think it was $100,000 he spends a year on his body.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I mean, he's LeBron James, so
LeBron James. And like even myself, like, okay, like sure, I'm 6'2", but I just how genetics are and how my body type is. I am not going to look like The Rock, unfortunately.
And here's the thing. It's like, it doesn't mean that your goals are not attainable.
Exactly.
It's just your path is going to look different to this person that you feel like you want to look like.
And you have to be okay with when you put on certain muscle, when you put on certain weight, you have to be able to say, this is how I am putting it on, and I am happy with myself looking this way.
Sure.
Which is so important. And it ties into what I was going to say next here, which was that mental health journey that I find with working out. And we all start working out having, like, of course, just sometimes the body goals or just some of the fitness goals, but it is also that putting that work into yourself, knowing that you put that extra time in for yourself and saying, hey, I look like this, I have this because I did this.
Yes.
And I guess even for yourself, like how that felt for you and what you also hear with people that you work with and how that stems and then the goals that they start to put for themselves from there.
Yeah. So in speaking about the mental health piece, it is very crucial and very integral to the physical health journey or the wellness journey. I like to put it as the wellness journey because my approach is a little bit more holistic than just us addressing your physical health. So it ties in really nicely to what you just mentioned in regards to mental health. Oftentimes with addressing physical health, the mental health can also be addressed as a result. And I have personally felt such an alleviation of stress, of anxiety with being involved in fitness for so long, my own personal fitness journey for so long, that when I don't work out, I feel the result of that.
Yeah.
I feel heavy, like my mind feels heavy. I feel a bit of brain fog. I feel more irritable.
All the little things that come back that you don't realize, like, oh, hold on.
Absolutely.
I wasn't feeling this before, yeah.
Absolutely. So from clients, I have heard, and it comes from quite a few clients who initially came in with, I want to lose X amount of weight. One of their first comments that they'll, maybe after a couple of weeks to a month, is like, I just feel better. Like I feel more vibrant. I feel happier. I feel like I have more energy.
You evolve with your journey.
Exactly. So the mental health piece is so key. And I also like to bring in the social aspect, the social support as well as part of my approach. So if the individual has, friends and family that are going to be joining them on this journey. Maybe not joining the sessions per se, but maybe some things that I assign to them outside of our sessions, they're going to have their friends and family doing that alongside with them. If they don't, it lets me know, okay, how much more of a cheerleader, how much more guidance and just, that support they'll need from me is what I'll gauge from that information. Something else that I like to really pay attention to is level of hydration, quality of sleep. Nutrition is super important. And again, these are just a few things that I like to think about and I like to address when I am training a client. So it's much more than just the physical. It's the mental, like you mentioned. It's the social support and the social health. Like, where are they getting their everyday support from? Can they get on the phone and call a friend and just have a listening ear? What is their day-to-day life looking like in terms of their nutritional intake? And this could be a very sensitive topic as well. So I use very specific language when I'm talking to clients when I address their nutrition. But we can get into that another time.
Honestly, it's I was gonna say next with it was what I like with what you do with it as well is a lot of, and it could just be my algorithm, but what I see a lot with the fitness space, it seems like it's very male dominated. And I think that with some of the followers that I have as well, there's an understanding that has to be had of, okay, women's body, the way to communicate with a woman and what's going to happen for her goals and everything is going to be different.
Absolutely.
Like, for myself being like, okay, I'm just going to work out every single day. I'm going to eat like 2,000 to 3,000 calories.
Sure.
And it's not going to affect me as much, but it's like, okay, I'm going to have to do this, have this kind of approach. I don't have a menstrual cycle, realistically speaking.
Yes.
Right. So how have you, like, yourself, like, how your approach is, and for people to understand that difference for women, like, how would you describe that? Yeah,
it's definitely something that we have to address as unique. Absolutely. And a few elements that, or, some really important elements that I've addressed is, working out through your menstrual cycle, working out prenatal, while you're pregnant and postpartum. And also what it can look like, or what things that we want to address if you experience things like PCOS, that is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, quite a few women do experience this. And then there's also menopause as well, that is big in the female population, those who are aging as well. And so, yes, the approach is definitely different. The way that you approach your workout regimen, the way that you approach your nutrition intake, even considering supplementation, okay, is something that I may encourage some clients to refer to their doctors about certain supplementation that could help their energy level or the way that they're feeling at that particular stage in their life. When I talk to women who have fears, I was that woman, as and it's funny because I have the knowledge to know that it is safe to work out while you're pregnant. And from my personal experience, there were a tremendous amount of hesitation. It was my first child, and no matter what I knew or what anyone else around me was telling me, I was feeling apprehensive. I didn't want to hurt the baby. I didn't want to do anything that could potentially put me at risk or the pregnancy at risk. And so going through that experience really opened up my eyes to what pregnant women experience, and it helped me relate a bit more. So when I do have clients who are pregnant, or who are in that postpartum stage and who have those fears about working out or moving a certain way, I'm able to connect a little bit deeper, but still encouraging the element of moving. Okay. And moving in a way that can still work towards their goals. And oftentimes the perception is you shouldn't lift super heavy. You shouldn't move your body in like overly dynamic ways. However, if you are a woman who had a workout regimen prior to getting pregnant, you can work out at that level. You can still work out at that level. So for me personally, I lifted quite heavy. So I did a lot of barbell training. And so it was great to hear my OBGYN, so my baby doctor, tell me that you can continue working out the way that you're working out. And then after a certain stage in my pregnancy, it was now, maybe you don't want to test out your 1 rep max. Maybe you don't want to go the heaviest that you possibly could at this stage. But throughout my entire pregnancy, it was encouraged for me to continue moving as I typically would have before discovering that I was pregnant. And so I encourage that with my pregnant clients. I encourage, there is a certain type of breathing that is also encouraged that may look different from women who are not pregnant, or men for that matter, would breathe through certain types of exercises. So yes, to answer your question in a long-winded way, training a woman is very unique, and training a woman at different stages in their life could look very nuanced based on that.
No, and hey, you did not get long when you get exactly what was needed just now in terms of information. And I actually wanted to go deeper on a couple of things because
sure.
For a lot of men, like myself, my mom actually recently taught me what postpartum depression was like.
Sure.
It's one of those things, as it's like, okay, this is something that happens. I don't know anything past it. My mom was like, okay, imagine how your body is going to react to having something growing inside of you.
Yes.
How much your hormones have to peak.
Yeah.
And then when this thing is no longer in your body now has to be like, my hormones just went to like 20,000.
Yeah.
And we got to bring ourselves back down and
rebalance.
And what's like a month, 6 months top like time period, almost what it feels like. So I figured out like, okay, that being explained to me, that was like, okay. And probably trying to work on everything, trying to do all that. Like, that's a lot. One thing though that you said, I kind of want to bring it back to that, but
Sure.
I'm really excited to learn because I never knew how much like ovarian cyst, oh my goodness, the
polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, I never knew how much that could have a strain on the body and like with working out and everything. So the us as the ignorant men on this side of the world, like, if you could explain that some more as well.
Yeah. So I'll sort of break it down in 2 elements because you brought up really key topics that I think more men should ask about, actually. So thank you for even asking about it in general. So yeah, polycystic ovarian syndrome, it really, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about it, but it can really affect your hormones. It can result in over hair growth or hair growth in places that typically wouldn't be found, so like copious amounts wouldn't be found typically in these particular areas for a woman typically. So that could be in like facial hair, for example. It could result in cystic acne. It could result in weight gain. Okay, so these are just to name a few. And so there is a hormonal imbalance that is occurring within PCOS that really works not so much in favor for those women who experience it. What some women, and not just with PCOS, but with other conditions as well, have been exposed to or seen is that sometimes they think it's a life sentence where it's like, this is my condition and there isn't a way to really cope with it. I've had women who tell me, I just can't really manage my weight the way that I want to. And I've tried so many different things. I just can't understand, what I may be doing wrong. And really, it's when it comes to PCOS, just like many approaches to physical fitness with women, it's a combination of things. So it's, what type of physical fitness are you involving yourself in? And so what's really recommended is a combination of resistance training, so weight training, as well as cardio training. And then nutrition based, it is really honing in on having a whole foods approach. Okay, because this extreme dieting story that we're told from, the men's perspective and the female's perspective as well, is not sustainable, and it doesn't actually work in favor for women who deal with PCOS. So these are some of the things that we touch upon for women specifically who are experiencing PCOS. The postpartum aspect is something that I can't speak to the depression side of things, but I can definitely speak to the regulation of, or the re-regulation of hormones. So what I have actually read is that it can take a woman up to 2 years for her body to recover after giving birth. Mm-hmm. And that is like bringing back balance. And I hate to use the word like bringing back, because your body has ultimately changed after that. But regulating things again can take up to 2 years. And so I don't talk about it a lot, but I told myself that I wanted to talk about it on this space because I think more women need to feel good about it. They need to feel less guilt around talking about things like, sometimes I will sit in the living room and my son is napping and I will just sigh, just the biggest sigh of relief, knowing that like I'm getting alone time. Mm-hmm. Or thinking to myself, would it have been better if I didn't have my son? Because then I would have more time to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. Now, these are some pretty deep thoughts, and there may be some women that might listen to this and think, wow, like, how can you say that out loud? Yeah. Your child is such a blessing.
But, in those moments, so much goes to your head.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, it's okay.
And even with, I didn't even know the 2 years part. And it's like,
yeah,
and you're also saying, because I'm sorry, there's so much I'm thinking with what you're saying, but you're saying yourself, there's things you don't want to get into because you're like, I'm not an expert with these things. But you know what? The limited amount of knowledge on these things and a lot of the male spaces, you just taught a lot of people so much information. Like, you're saying all the things where I'm like, oh, I didn't even, there's so much limited things that I understood that you're teaching me on. And bringing it back, sorry, to what you're saying, whether being 2 years, it's like, having a kid and going right back into having another one, it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. It's one that I am enjoying, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think what's important to say is you can enjoy the experience and you can also reflect on it in a way that I'm mentioning right now, where you have moments of sadness.
And I think it's good to acknowledge that you felt these things, and it's not a good thing to just be like, okay, let's act like I never thought these things. I could be judged for it. No, it's real. The place, for people who I've been able to hear a couple of stories online of where the mind can go in that time period. Your mind can go places, and it's not you. It's just you're going through so much.
Absolutely.
In this moment, and it's okay to be like, I'm going through all of this right now.
For sure. I've had close relatives and friends experience, similar thoughts, and even more to when their child is really upset and crying or even screaming.
Yeah.
And just them thinking, I just want to get up and leave this space and not have to listen to this or not have to deal with this. I've had friends also tell me that they feel like they've lost themselves and they feel like the dynamic that they have with their partner or with their family, they've lost it as well. And so it's really important, if there's anything that I can say, whether it be blood related or not, to find your circle. That has helped me tremendously. So I have taken my little boy to what's called an early on learning center. There are centers all over the GTA. It's free programming.
Oh, okay.
It's a way for moms as well as babies to socialize. Okay. I've taken my little one, we've done dancing together. So I literally strap him on me and we dance together. Yeah. Things that I've done on my own without my boy, which I think is really important too, as a mom or as a parent, is to have alone time. Having that alone time, I even told my boyfriend, when I do have those moments of alone time or even hours and I come back home, I was like, I feel like I can be a better parent now, where I don't have those inside feelings of frustration or, I just want to just put him down or give him to somebody else because I'm experiencing those high levels of irritability, or just thinking to myself, would it have just been easier if I didn't have him? And those are real feelings. Those are feelings that, I'll be honest with you, you are one, two, three. You are a few people that I have started to share that with. I know many moms around me have, but I don't know if on a more open platform, there's a lot of women who are sharing that, because we are led to believe that this is our role. Yeah. This is part of our role. And I genuinely, personally, I believe that. I believe that a large part of my role as a woman was to be a mother. A lot of women may not agree with that, and that's okay. It's okay to believe that and also feel like, wow, my identity has really shifted and I don't always love it.
It's like how I've learned to fathom that journey is because as a man, I'm not going to be able to fully grasp the concept that
and that's
my
okay.
body is going to like hormone. Just even just the simple fact that hormonally, week by week, my body is going to be different.
Yeah.
And the closest I could fathom it to is like, as men, our testosterone peaks. Like, for example, if it's like we're in fight or flight mode or like something like that's happening.
Sure.
And it's like the way that my testosterone peaks where I could just get really like pissed off at certain moments. I'm just like, I just need to put this energy somewhere.
Right.
I can only imagine if my body was doing that for a week straight. And it's just like my body was just like, you know what? This is just that week that it's going to do that now, right? Like,
not even a week, sometimes months, sometimes years. And you just, as a woman, you have to have the grace. You have to give yourself the time and the patience to recover.
Yes.
And you also need to have support around you, your partner around you, your family, your friends around you, who can understand that to the best of their ability. And just like you said, you hormonally will not understand what that experience is like, what the recovery is like. But you just acknowledging that is saying a lot. So, and you being open enough to want to learn about women's various experiences is a lot. And a lot of women, if I can mention, including your fiance, is probably really grateful that we're even having this conversation because she's probably thinking to herself, and I can only speak to, my feelings towards it, but she may be thinking, like, thank goodness, that this is even a thought in your minds to want to talk about things like this. Because when you guys experience it together, if you do, then it's going to be that much easier for your dynamic and that much easier for her and her journey.
And like, it's funny because, like you're saying, with everything you're saying, everything I thought, I can be completely transparent and say my concept and understand. Like I had zero concept. Like I said, my mom finally like gave me an idea. And funny enough, it was like, I think the same week that I found your page.
Yes.
Funny enough, like
what a coincidence.
She gave me the whole like rundown of it.
Yeah.
And before she gave me that, I was like, okay, is postpartum like this thing where it's just like there is this like new being, and just the concept of this new being that's in the space that like is getting to you. It's like that you just gave birth to, and it's like there's so much of the science of it.
Yeah.
As a lot of men, don't or couldn't really understand as a thing. We don't have this knowledge of being available. So, and I'm very grateful because, like you said, there's going to be so much women that are going to hear this. And you being as candid and transparent about your experiences, it's going to help them. And I
hope so.
And I really encourage that any of the, like, I can't say for people what to do, but for the women that are watching this, even the men that are watching this, not to come from an angle of like you said, like, how could you?
Yes.
Take the minute and understand this is going to be a space for people who need this right now, mentally, who need to have that kind of space to happen. And for you to not just have this, and I think you said your son right now is your first child, right?
Yes.
6-7 months old. My apology. I think you said. Yeah. And you're here doing this, and you have the energy you have. Like, congratulations to you, honestly.
Thank you. Sometimes it is fake it until I make it in terms of the energy level. Like today, I probably had maybe 3 hours of solid sleep.
Oh, my goodness.
Last night I had 3 hours of solid sleep. And then I went and did some instructing, and then I came here. Mm-hmm. And initially, at the start of my day, I was feeling not so energetic, but being here and being with my students, it really uplifts my spirits. And that is what fitness and being an educator has brought to me, I could have a crappy day or a crappy night before, and as soon as I am on my way to teach, to host my podcast, to educate in some sort of way, to do a speech of some sort, that my mind switches.
Yeah.
My mind completely switches, and after the end of my day, I'm like, wow, why was I so upset again? Or what? Sure, it could have been lack of sleep, or something might have happened the night before, but it would have been forgotten by that point.
It's funny with what you're saying with that, as well as I always like to remind people is the brain is so interesting, just how it works, and sometimes you just have to learn how to get your brain to realize it's just there. It's gonna feel all things that you're saying of like, I'm exhausted, I'm annoyed, I'm feeling all of these things right now. And you can try and just feel all that at that moment, but sometimes you literally just have to be like, I have to just do this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to forget about it. Like, it's when you're saying, like, I like, different reasons, but I was like, I'm a low amount of sleep.
Yeah.
And literally just an hour before, I don't know what it is, but for myself, right at like 1 o'clock to like usually 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm just like, I am tired.
Yes.
I want to sleep. No, like whatever is going on.
No disturbances, blackout blinds.
I don't care. I just want to sleep, and I'm just going to be annoyed because I didn't sleep. But I found that just like that boost of energy, sometimes the body is just like, I'm feeling this. Sometimes I just need this. I saw this one interesting thing actually that use a vague example here. I wish I had the chart. I need to find it, and I'm going to post it on my page later on.
Cool.
But it was like sometimes when your body's craving like chocolate, what it really wants is potassium sometimes. And those little ways of how your body's just like, I want this, but really and truly,
but I need this.
I actually need this.
Yes.
It's the way of just understanding your body in this way can go so far for you.
Absolutely. I totally feel like you can say, you know what, I'm going to go about my day, but you can also feel the feels.
Yeah.
Like you can allow yourself to sit in those emotions and feel them. I'm not saying don't do that and just go about your day and ignore
you need
them.
To understand
yeah,
yourself
you need to really, it takes work, and people know that through, you know, their own personal life experiences. And I can't speak for those who have these mental health experiences that they endure every single day. Mm-hmm. From my personal experience, what has benefited me is feel the feels, express the feels to those around you. Get it off your chest. Mm-hmm. Don't let it bottle up inside you. And then go about your day with the things that you do, okay? That you enjoy doing. That brings you joy, that you know is going to bring that light to your day. And trust me when I say it does turn the day around. It doesn't mean that those feelings that you felt are not valid and not valuable. But what it does mean is that you have allowed yourself to feel these things and then transition into what feels good, what feels right, and what is just adding to your personal growth.
Because, at the end of the day, it's like the difference when we're feeling things is you can feel what you feel, but you can either stay in that feeling.
Sure.
Or you can say to yourself, all right, I felt this. It's time for me to come out from that. And that's what can increase just your bodily frequency as well. And I want it because there's so much great. And I'm so grateful for you being here. And I'm honestly going to probably have to bring you back for like 2-3 more episodes to get everything we're even thinking right now out. But I want to wrap it back to what I was saying before as well, with you being on your fitness journey through pregnancy, through everything right now. Like, how would you say, even for yourself, that fitness journey has transformed and evolved over that time period between pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, into post-pregnancy now? Yeah,
great question. My training before pregnancy looked a lot different. And I'm actually really grateful for my pregnancy journey because it has really put the attention back on the fundamentals. And I felt as though before I was pregnant and the way that I was training, I didn't spend enough time on the fundamentals. So proper breathing technique, proper form, and connecting form with breathing. And after having my boy, and even when I discovered I was pregnant, really made me put in the time and the effort to learn more about these things and implement it for myself, and also put it into the programs that I make for my clients. Because a lot of what I have learned prenatal as well as postpartum can apply to a lot of us in terms of proper breathing. When you really hone in on proper breathing through exercise, it can significantly reduce injury. So for friends out there who, you know, you may be experiencing low back issues that might have been caused by a movement that you did in the gym or an exercise that you did at home, or just these aches, pains, and strains that you feel as a result to some things that you did through movement, breathing, proper breathing, connective breathing through the core, through the pelvic floor. A lot of people don't understand that, and I'm still on my journey of understanding your pelvic floor muscles. Super, super key when executing safe and efficient exercise.
It's interesting when you say that because, like, when I was in the gym before, I had to stop recently because I had surgery I have to sort out. But one of the things I was realizing as I was in there, I was like, okay, with everything you're saying, but on top of that, being able to actually perform better with your breathing is so important. Because if I'm doing road, like I can't remember the ones when you have the weights and you're pulling down. I can't remember what that one's called right now.
lat pull down?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I'm when I'm in the gym and I'm doing that, if I allow myself to just be a bit patient, focus on the breathing, focus on my form and everything, I can actually do more than when I'm just like, all right, just force.
Yes.
It does not.
I really love what you just said there, patience.
Yeah.
I can attest to the experience of walking into a gym and feeling really intimidated or really taken aback by the way that people look, the way that people are moving, the weight that they load on their bar. And some people get a little too hungry for that when they haven't quite built the foundation yet. And part of the foundation, like I said, is connective breathing. In focusing more on that in my own personal journey, I started to fill in the holes of what was lacking in my training before I got pregnant. And this is something that I really want people to think about is, yes, your goals matter. Think about the long-term effects. Think about a sustainable approach to movement that is not only going to benefit your goals that you want to accomplish in 6 months to a year, but also add to your quality of life and have you live a longer, safer, more active way of living. Like my boyfriend's grandmother is 90, she will be 94 years old.
Dang.
And she is still up and cooking and cleaning and going to seniors events and traveling. And that's because she really prioritized movement, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as honing in on being consistent with walking. And starting from there, like I had recent clients that I just attained where we built up and we progressed to routine, to consistency. And we started with things that they were already doing and they already enjoyed, and that was walking, right? Walking is a part of a lot of our day-to-days, no matter how long or short you go on for that walk. And people really underestimate the simplicity of it and the effectiveness of it. So if I can suggest anything, is live in the simplicity and the foundation of your training, that being connective breathing. And I can get into greater detail on another episode, but really get into that connective breathing and getting into movements that you're already enjoying and start from there. And trust me when I say you are better off for it. You will be safer. And when you are working towards those goals, those movements and your gains are going to be that much more efficient.
Okay, honestly, thank you so much for that. And
you're so welcome.
Like you said, there's so much, and I can just tell there's so much places that we can go, and we are going to need a few more episodes for this. You've honestly inspired me so much. Everyone who's watching this and you stuck here to the end, very grateful for you guys. Please make sure that you follow Brittany on social media. Please drop your social media and your podcast for us to follow you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Brittany M. Warner. And if you want to put that in the description in terms of spelling. And on YouTube, you can find me at the Small Business Big Stories podcast. You can also find me on all podcast streaming platforms, Small Business Big Stories. And yeah, I like to keep it, on those few platforms. I tried TikTok for a bit. It became a little much, so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to really hone in on my Instagram posts, my YouTube.
Focus where you can first.
Yeah. And so that's where you can find me, guys.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for staying so long. And please have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.